If you marry your brother and you commit immigration fraud, should you be denaturalized and deported? If you commit immigration fraud, yes or no?
Again, that question seems really inappropriate. And if I can get back to your question.
Well, you can't answer my question, so that's probably more inappropriate. Can you name one significant contribution to Minnesota from a Somali immigrant?
I mean, I have no worry. I don't know how they take away my citizenship and like deport me, but I don't even know like why that's such a scary threat. Like, I'm not the 8-year-old who escaped war anymore. I'm grown. My kids are grown. Like, I can go live wherever I.
Ilhan Omar doesn't want this conversation anywhere near daylight, because once you start asking real questions about her past, the entire narrative collapses. Ilhan Omar has never fully answered the most serious allegations hanging over her political career, including accusations of marriage fraud and chain migration that helped bring large numbers of Somalis into the United States under questionable circumstances. These aren't internet rumors. These are documented questions raised by investigators, journalists, and lawmakers, questions Democrats shut down instead of answering. Nancy Mace went straight at the core issue Democrats refuse to touch: if someone commits immigration fraud, should there be consequences? And suddenly, the room exploded with outrage. Not because the question was unfair, but because it hit too close to home. Ilhan Omar has faced long-standing allegations that she married her own brother to game the immigration system. True or not, here's the key point: she has never fully, transparently cleared it up. No records. No direct answers. Just deflection, outrage, and cries of inappropriate. At the same time, Minnesota becomes ground zero for massive fraud schemes tied to Somali-run nonprofits, billions in taxpayer dollars stolen. While Omar positions herself as untouchable, immune from scrutiny, and above basic questions every other American would face. And let's be clear, this is not about race. This is about the law. If any American committed immigration fraud, they'd face consequences. But when it comes to Ilhan Omar and her political allies, Democrats suddenly pretend accountability is offensive. Let's get into the video.
Thank you. As I listen to the witnesses answer questions today, I'm struck by the truly breathtaking amount of fraud, the scope and scale perpetrated against the American people by Somalians in Minnesota. Screeching Democrats, like you just heard, at our witnesses. Democrats on this committee don't want to talk about Minnesota fraud because Minnesota fraud is Democrat fraud. You're going to make a great host on MSNBC. You're going to be great. And this is a cover-up. I mean, the very definition of cover-up. And so while we're still trying to understand the scale of the fraud, it appears that the amount of fraud we are talking about could exceed the size of GDP in Somalia, the size of its economy is what we're talking about. So let that sink in, the amount of fraud we're talking about. My first question is this, Mr. Balyu, this afternoon. Should Somalians in Minnesota be required to speak English, their citizens? Yes or no? Should they be required to speak English if they're American citizens?
I think that question's really inappropriate.
Should they? It's not inappropriate. This is the United States of America. Do you speak English? Should Americans speak English? Citizens speak English? Yes or no?
Point of inquiry: is English the official language of the United States? It's a question.
Mr. Chairman, I'm being interrupted again by another.
That's not a valid parliamentary inquiry.
I would like to reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reclaim my time.
She's asking the witness.
A popular theme today.
That's not a valid inquiry.
It's a point of inquiry.
Women have a right to speak in this committee. Conservative women have the right to speak here and not be interrupted by my male colleagues. Mr. Chairman, I would like to reclaim my time. I lost like 10 seconds there.
Okay, we'll give you 10 seconds.
Okay, my next question is, should Somalians who committed fraud be denaturalized and deported, Mr. Balyu?
Again,
yes
I'm not sure that's an appropriate question because the majority of Somali Minnesotans are citizens.
So if you commit fraud in this country and you are here from Somalia, you don't believe they should be denaturalized and deported? Again, how much fraud would it take for you to want to denaturalize and deport someone who committed fraud in this country? How much?
Again,
$1 billion? 9 billion? 19 billion? What would it take for you?
Most Somali Minnesotans are citizens.
Right. And the ones that committed fraud, the question was, if you understand English, should be those who committed fraud, should they be denaturalized and deported? The Somalians who are here, the ones that can't speak English.
Yeah, so under U.S. law.
Okay, my next question for
Excuse me,
you
can I please finish the question?
No, you can't because you're not answering the question. My next question is, this is yes or no. If you marry your brother and you commit immigration fraud, should you be denaturalized and deported? If you
Again,
commit immigration fraud, yes or no?
Again, that question seems really inappropriate. And if I can get
Well,
back
you
to your
can't answer
question.
my question, so that's probably more inappropriate. Can you name one significant contribution to Minnesota from a Somali immigrant who can't speak English?
Absolutely, yes. But again, this is.
You didn't name one. All right, so my next questions are going to be for the Honorable Ms. Robbins. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. I heard some discussion earlier about al-Shabaab. And the discovery that you believe some of this money that was defrauded the U.S. government went to al-Shabaab. Is that correct? Did I hear that right?
Yes, it's been proven.
How much money are we talking about?
You know, we don't have an amount. So there's been specific cases where it's been charged where we have an amount, but then of the millions that go to Somali over the years in remittances, a portion of that we understand is taken as sort of a tax or corruption by al-Shabaab when it enters the country.
Can you explain to us who al-Shabaab is?
It's a terrorist organization in Somalia.
And they're affiliated with al-Qaeda, is that right?
My understanding is they are.
I am on the DNI website where it tells me that since 2014, al-Shabaab has killed more U.S. citizens than any other al-Qaeda affiliate. And as of 2025, al-Shabaab, this group is al-Qaeda's wealthiest component. Can you believe that?
Yes.
And that American tax dollars through Minnesota, through Governor Tim Walz, who shamefully had to resign from his reelection the other day. Thank you to the young YouTuber Nick Shirley. This is the kind of thing that was happening in Minnesota. So I praise the Republicans who are here today from the Minnesota State Legislature exposing this fraud. And then, Ms. Robbins, when do you think Tim Walz became aware of the fraud?
I think he's been aware of it since the beginning. This was a huge issue in our state in the year he ran for governor, and the OLA reports came out, first identifying the child care fraud in March and April of 2019 when he was in the first months of his term.
Was Keith Ellison in on it too, knowledgeable, the Catholic turned Muslim guy in Minnesota?
Yes, they were all newly in office, and this was very public knowledge in Minnesota.
What role do you think Tim Walz and Keith Ellison played, his administration, in delaying investigations into the fraud?
So I've outlined several things where they stopped our ability to strengthen internal controls, and they also shut down the criminal investigations by the OIG and DHS.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back. I do have two articles, Mr. Chairman, that I would like to ask unanimous consent. This one on foxnews.com, Minnesota fraud probe will expand to other states. And then on house.gov, legislators blast DHS for revelations it had contracts with feeding our future fraudsters.
Without objection, so
Thank you,
ordered,
Mr.
Chair.
Nancy Mace didn't just ask tough questions in this hearing. She ripped the mask off a fraud scandal Democrats have been desperately trying to bury, and Ilhan Omar is right at the center of the heat. She laid out the scale of the Minnesota fraud in plain terms, billions of dollars stolen from American taxpayers. Not pocket change. Not paperwork errors. We're talking about fraud so massive it rivals the entire GDP of Somalia. And suddenly, Democrats didn't want to talk anymore. Why? Because Minnesota fraud is Democrat fraud, and Ilhan Omar's backyard is where a lot of this happened. And yet, where was Ilhan Omar? Silent. Defensive. Absent when it came time to condemn the fraud, the cover-ups, or the consequences. Testimony confirmed that some of this stolen money didn't just disappear, it ended up overseas, where a portion was funneled to al-Shabaab, a U.S.-designated terrorist organization tied to al-Qaeda. Since 2014, al-Shabaab has killed more Americans than any other al-Qaeda affiliate, and it's now their wealthiest branch. So how did this happen? It all happened under Governor Tim Walz. And we are here to expose the fraud, follow the money and demand answers.